Hello, bonjour, Alberta. Did you know that at least 238,000 people speak Français in Alberta? And those numbers just keep on growing? Oui, oui, c'est vrai, it's true. And thanks to Shaw TV Community Access Programming, we get to reach out to everyone to let you know all about special people, places, events, and activities happening right here in this great province, in both English and en français. That's right, mes amis. We begin the first part of our program in English, and then we repeat it en français. So stay with us. Restez à l'écoute.
Welcome et bienvenue to Hello, Bonjour, Alberta. I'm Marc Lalonde.
And I'm Anne Boiteau.
And in today's episode, we're very pleased to reintroduce you to our own history wrangler, Rob Lennard, who this evening is Director of Education and Outreach at the historic ranch at Fish Creek Park. I hope I got all that right, Rob.
That is correct.
Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, in case people haven't seen our previous interview with you, can you give us a brief rundown of where you're from and what you've been through in your entire life to end up where you are now?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Mark. It's great to be here again. This wonderful show, Hello, Bonjour. It's my favorite Shaw cable show, I might add. Just a little heads up, it started way back in 2004 when I walked into a chapter store and I said, what do you have that makes Alberta history fun and cool for kids? And that the next year was the centennial. And essentially the chapter's woman said, well, there's quite frankly nothing on the market. So I spent the next 9 months writing a book, and it turned out to be was a best-selling book. I received my Centennial Medal for writing it from Ralph Klein, the premier at the time. Mm-hmm. And I subsequently did a second edition that actually turned out to be the best-selling book for Calgary Stampede Centennial. So I've done that, and then I wrote a second book, which had a First Nation theme to it.
Why a second edition?
I found
so close to the first.
No, it was about a 7 year window from because 2005 was for Alberta Centennial, and 2012 was for the Calgary Stampede Centennial. And between that, I wrote a First Nations book, and that's something that's quite an interesting story. And I'm actually touched, and that was recently voted one of the top 20 in Canada by 7 Aboriginal judges. So I'm just absolutely taken by that.
Yeah, that's
and
Chief,
I'm just
just
excited. And Chief Crowfoot, of course, your Crowfoot Trail in Calgary.
Yeah.
And actually his great-great-granddaughter wrote the forward message in the book. So I'm very, very humble with that. So I'm excited with that. And then one thing led to another, and that led to my position, where as a director of Alberta Heritage School Fairs, so I went and saw close to 20,000 kids across the province. And that contract expired last May. And 3 or 4 months ago, I was actually started working with the historical ranch down at Fish Creek Provincial Park. And the big thing down there was that it's been around for 20 years. And for the 20th anniversary, the president, Larry Wasilio, wanted to commence some education programs. So that's in fact where I stood back and I developed some really exciting programs that are being launched next fall. And there's actually 12, and it's an interesting format in that, so 12 courses.
If you don't mind,
absolutely.
I think we should introduce, what is this historic ranch?
Absolutely.
Perhaps some of our viewers haven't been there.
Absolutely, and what it is, it's very fascinating that it's actually been around since 1873. And perhaps a lot of your viewers realize there's a beautiful old ranch house down at Fish Creek Provincial Park. And the story is there, I call them the Distinguished Three. And the first gentleman named John Glenn, and he actually came over back in before 1873. When he was 16 years old, he was down fighting the Civil War, down in southern parts of the States. And he looked around and said, I don't believe in what they believe in. I believe in black slavery. So he switched sides and fought the Unions, actually fought the Confederates. So, to make a long story short, he ended up back up in Alberta, fell in love with a woman named Adelaide Belcourt, who was, of course, Métis. So John Glenn had a French father-in-law. So it's wonderful how that French connection down at the ranch.
Yes.
That's the first ranch. The second one, his name was William Roper Hull. And he came over from England when he was 21 years old. And where he made his money is that he realized around Calgary there wasn't a lot of robust horses. They had special breed horses from out in BC, and he traveled 1,200 horses. It took 2 months right from there through the Rockies to bring them to Calgary. He sold them to the Bayou Ranch, where a lot of the Mounties found their horses, were $50,000. So that led to opening butcher shops and cattle, big ranches. Then lo and behold, after him, none other than St. Patrick Burns purchased all, they call it the Cattle King, purchased all his holdings, including the ranch. So it's quite something that, the fact is, so you have the three distinguished three. I'm actually very excited. I wrote a song about them as well, which I'm just finishing up the recording on that. So
getting to the ranch is, I'm trying to remember here, is it at the end of Bow Bottom Trail?
Yeah, it's very, very easy. Go Bow Bottom Trail, and you turn right. And there's the Interpretive Center for Parks, Alberta. And a lot of Calgarians don't know it's actually a provincial park.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not part of the state, it's actually a provincial park. I was very honored the government of Alberta sent me to an interpretive workshop last month out in central Alberta to learn all about the interpretive techniques. So certainly they're very supportive about the ranch, all the programs we have down there.
So tell us a little bit about your
Yeah, I certainly
programs.
will. And first I might add that the programs are also offered in English and French.
Yes.
Which I'm very excited about that. And so here are the 13 programs. And the first I like to call is a non-optional program that deals with the distinguished three I just talked about. So essentially teachers ahead of time get to tick out 4 programs apart from the non-optional programs that they can learn all about with their students in 2 hours. So here's an example, the famous Northwest Mounted Police, their story. And the tie-in there is John Glenn, back in 1874, he showed Colonel McLeod the future site of Fort McLeod.
Oh, okay.
So you have that. So every single course ties in with the history of the ranch. Next one we have spiritual protectors, because the land is on traditional Blackfoot land. So I address that. And a lot of that information comes from my book, actually, the First Nations book, and Aboriginal Sign Language. So it fascinated me in that one of my heroes, Father Lacombe, of course, French from Quebec, he actually first signed with the First Nations to communicate before he learned how to speak Cree and Blackfoot. So I picked up a 1929 book 2 weeks ago. I'm teaching myself how to sign.
Oh, all right.
Just surround here and advance, go like this. So anyways, I'm very excited about learning Great Plains Sign Language. Another course there, the Route of the Canadian Pacific Railroad, and that was August 1883. And that's fun that I'm also a songwriter. I actually wrote a song about that, about the CP Rail coming to town, which is great. I enjoyed that. Next one, Canada's First Cowboys. So that story there. Called The Home of the Rugged.
Canada's first cowboy.
Yeah, there are a lot of Americans came up.
Yes.
There's a gentleman named John Ware. He actually invented the sport of steer wrestling. And he was a former slave, but 8 years old, had to fight other 8 years old for the masters down South Carolina. So he came up, and and they say he never got bucked off a horse. And the only time was on September 12th, less than 2 weeks after Alberta became a province. He slipped off the horse, and the horse was in a gopher hole, and he was killed instantly, sadly. See, they said it's the very first time that he got bucked off a horse. So incredible man. So answer your question, then the history of the chuck wagon races as well. That's a cute story.
Yeah.
There are up to 15 chuck wagons. They said, whoever makes it to the saloon the last has to buy the rounds of beer. Like, yeehaw! And of course, one thing led to another. But it's interesting, the very first Calgary Stampede back in 1912, they didn't have chuck wagon races. They actually had stagecoach races, which is interesting. And actually there's 2 that went this way, 2 went the other way across around this grandstand. So it was quite risky indeed. Way back in that. So it's quite something. The next one, famous Métis characters. And of course, my favorite was the Willow Bunch Giant.
Oh, yes.
From Saskatchewan.
I'm from that area.
Oh,
actually.
so
I'm from the
incredible.
Willow Bunch area, yes.
8'3", and he used to lift 800-pound horses on his back down in California.
Wow.
And what I do when I talk to kids, I talk the story about the bullying story. Like some kids made fun of him. So you literally grab these 2 kids and put them on top of a rooftop. So you wait for 2 hours and you think about bullying. It's not bad. You don't want to bully anybody, let alone a giant.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just
kind of a bad choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's quite something. So of course, I've incorporated in my storyline.
That's cute.
Next one, Alberta's train robbers, which I enjoy, and the horse thieves and the cattle rustlers.
Did we have famous ones?
Matter of fact, we had a very famous one.
Yes?
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Harry Lombach, he actually worked in Alberta at the Bayou Ranch, which is interesting. And then from there he went down and joined the Sundance Kid. So a very famous one. One of the famous train robbers in North America, which is quite something. So he's quite the character. And next one of my favorite courses is the historic French roots in Calgary and the history of Quebec's poutine. But so a lot of it, my friend Suzanne was, it's very passionate for her to appreciate that the very first schools in Calgary were started by Francophones.
Yes.
And the first and of course, Father Lacombe, he went down to Ottawa and he said, by golly, I want 2 sections of land, about 320 acres, to put my mission in. I'm not leaving Parliament Hill until I get those acres of land. So anyway, so he came to Calgary, and of course the rest is history, and started the famous missions. That's the story that I like to tell down at the ranch for one of the courses. First Calgary Stampede. I'm certainly very passionate on myself. I've actually been part of 7 Calgary Stampedes over the years. And my research, my first book, so I'm very knowledgeable about that subject matter. And the birth of our beautiful province, Alberta. That's very, very close to my heart as well. So that's something.
That's a great
Yes.
lead.
Yeah, it's a great segue.
Yeah.
To the next subject here, I guess.
Yes, what about this first annual Alberta's Birthday Celebration Extravaganza?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
That is something I'm so excited about. And I'll just tell you where I got the idea for this big party. When I was traveling throughout Alberta for a couple of years, I go into a gymnasium full of 700 kids. Say, okay, kids, who can tell me when Alberta became a province? I looked around, couldn't find anyone putting their hands up. So I said to myself, by golly, I like to change that in Alberta. So this is our big first event. It's taking place down at the Ranche on September 1st, Tuesday night. And it's 110th birthday of Alberta this year. So I couldn't think of a happier celebration to get kick things off. And some of the real highlights, we have some amazing entertainment, which I'm very pleased to announce. Just as of today, we actually have Tim Haas, and he's sort of Canada's country folk sort of most recognized folk stars out there now. And he's actually headlined the grandstand show down the Calgary Stampede this year. Ooh. So he's coming to perform. Plus we also have, I call them the 3 divas. They're Alex Hughes, they're Maureen Murphy. There's also a woman named Kathy De Silva. And 2 of the women, Maureen and Alex, they actually sang on the Calgary Stampede float at the beginning of the parade. And one's a former young Canadian. They both won big awards down in the States. They sang at the Calgary Flames, the Labor Day Classic. So it's really fantastic. Yes. And with them is my own band called the Dusty Saddle Gang Band. So they'll be performing as well, so they'll be the guest artists. So excited about that. And we also have a marching band, if not 2 marching bands. And essentially we're recreating, what's really exciting, we have professional actors. They will recreate the exact speeches that were said back in 1905.
Oh,
we're really excited about that. And one thing on my invitation, it was actually the big birthday cake that Senator Patrick Burns had baked when he's 75 years old. It fed 15,000 people.
Oh,
so we're taking that exact, we have the recipe.
Yeah.
So we're taking the exact same cake, we'll have a replicate. It might be 1/10 this first year, but essentially feed hopefully 500-600 people. So really excited, official cake cutting as well. We anticipate lots of VIPs. And then one final note on this is that we're actually launching a flag contest next year to develop the unofficial birthday flag of the province, which we hope over time will become the official flag and get hoisted over the legislature every September 1st.
So where did the birthday flag come from?
Very good question. Actually, my father, rest his soul, he passed away last December, but he also always had a birthday flag up at our cottage. So he'd hoist his birthday flag. So my goal and intention is to replicate this and then have hopefully city halls all across the province September 1st hoist the flag. So recognize, really celebrate the fact Alberta's birthday, and of course, coincidentally, it's just exactly 2 months after Canada's birthday as well. So July 1st, September 1st, that's something.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So this information is all on your website?
Absolutely.
And what is the website?
HappyBirthdayAlberta.com.
Oh, really?
So that's something.
Okay.
And that takes you right
Very
to the website
nice.
that also ties in with the ranch, all the courses down there as well. So it's all linked to the same
Great. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Rob.
My pleasure.
Rob Lennard, Director of Education and Outreach at the Historical Ranch at Fish Creek Provincial Park. Please stay with us. We continue en français.